Anticipation. You could describe this by calling it the wind-up. Without a wind-up, without a form of anticipation or build-up to an action, actions will end up looking unrealistic and stale and boring. They'll look like they came out of nowhere and probably shouldn't have happened at all. So in this example, if I went immediately from point A to point B, the viewer could end up feeling a little bit lost as to perhaps what happened. The anticipation can be most useful in preparing the viewer for what's about to come. It's like we're establishing the motion that's going to happen. So instead of going from our first pose to our last pose without any demonstration that we're going there, we instead need to wind back, usually in the opposite direction of where the motion is going to be going. So in this case, his destination is leaning forward and looking forward. So therefore, in his anticipation, he needs to lean back and move back, ready to apply that motion forward. And that is the anticipation pose. Other examples might include a boxer who's about to throw a punch. Instead of having his fist up in a guard position and then immediately reaching out and having his fist forward, he would first arch his body back, pull his fist and arm back to prepare his body to move forward and apply that momentum and apply the force in his punch. So likewise, in application to our animation, we have these frames where the monkey's shaking his head and then he leans back in anticipation and then looks forward. Soon following this motion, he, in anticipation, leaps backwards before he jumps forward and stands up. So these are two pretty extreme examples as to how they can be used. This one in particular is most extreme, and this one is pretty straightforward and more applicable for general animation. But if we remove this application of anticipation and we go immediately to point B, so to speak, it would look something like this, which is a bit stale. As you can see, there's a little bit of a bounce back. It applies some sort of dynamic element, and that's what's called the release, as every anticipation comes with the release. So we lean forward and then there's a slight recoil there. We could remove this as well and show how completely flat and stale it looks without any anticipation or release. It's not that it doesn't work. In fact, you could do it and it could be passable and people might not notice that there's a huge problem. But the reality is when we add anticipation and release, we're adding a large element of interest to our animation segment. Almost every action in real life and in animation should have an anticipation and release. From a pitcher's wind-up to a golfer's swing on a golf course, the anticipation and release could be large or minor, but the point is it's important as an animator to communicate the motion that's about to happen and prepare it to unfold by demonstrating that the motion is being wound up before it happened. Thanks for watching through this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.